And we are live.
What's up, my know-it-alls? Okay, so this is a live edition, and yes, it's going across to several other channels, including the NerdFights channel and some of the other ones as well. But also, more importantly, over there on the Twitters. What are we talking about? News just dropped, specifically that Marvel has announced, it's been on Deadline and Variety and a few other places by now. The news went out that they have dropped the Blade movie. That's the Mahershala Ali version of the movie, and they have completely dropped it and off of their current schedule. There's been no formal announcement that it's being canceled or that Mahershala's not attached anymore. Those things may or may not come and follow, but as of right this moment, it is very, very clear that the movie we thought we were going to get, that we've all been wondering for so long what has been going on with this, and now after losing directors, after losing potentially having one script that was scrapped and another, and people, there's been stories coming in and out of the production of some sort of problematic development period. And so what are we going to do? We're here to do one very important thing, and that's potentially see if we can fix it. But I think there may be someone who disagrees with the idea that we can ever have another Blade.
There's only been one Blade. There's only ever going to be one Blade.
There can be only one.
Thank you so much for that, Salty. That was awesome. Of course, joining me is my good buddy, Michael Crawford, a.k.a. Salty Trekker. How are you, sir?
Tired. And,
thank you so much for making time to have this conversation to talk about this.
It's funny. It's a true story here. So, I've been driving not just the Uber stuff and doing all the stuff I've been trying to do, but also because my wife has been under the weather, I've been having to do all her stuff as well. So I've been just absolutely exhausted. And so today, was getting ready. The kids had their usual Tuesday night stuff I had to drive them around to, and then they said, "Oh, well, we canceled, so you can have the night off." I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna," and then I said, "You know what? Screw it. I'm not gonna even drive Uber tonight. I'm just gonna sleep." And then, I'm sitting here in my easy chair, just thinking, "Okay, let's drift off," and then you call.
If only there was somebody who would call and harass me.
Yes. So, and yes, Stan, I couldn't even, this week has been just absolutely wrecking me, and that's why I wasn't able to make it on Sunday or Monday. So this is actually my first live stream since our Saturday live stream, which I feel horrible about, but I'm glad I'm somewhat conscious right now.
No, right on. Hunter E says, Mr. Know Reviews, I have an idea that Mahershala Ali should just walk across the DC in the DCU, and what if casting for him Martian Manhunter? I think Mahershala Ali would be a brilliant Martian Manhunter, so I'm actually all for that casting choice. That's great.
I actually as far as looking at him and stuff, I think he's a good pick for Blade.
Oh, absolutely.
I just, I was talking about it with the wife about an hour ago, and, she was really upset when I told her, because she was like, Blade is the one Marvel movie she was really looking forward to next year.
Agreed.
And
so was I. I think a lot of us were.
And, well, I'm more looking forward to Fantastic Four, to be honest. But, hey, I am.
My whole thing is it's been well over, we're closing in on a decade since they announced it.
Yes.
It's actually been 6 or 7 years at this point. But I think by the end of this year, it'll be 7 years. Because they did it just before, at the last Comic-Con, just prior to COVID. And so it's man, it's just been one thing after another when it comes to that whole very, very problematic production.
Yeah.
So the real reason that I got this whole thing together, too, by the way, just so that everybody understands, this isn't a normal, nerd fights or talk. Salty and I are very experienced people when it comes to storytelling. Salty himself it's funny, as I'm archiving the old show and shifting it from one channel to the other, I'm seeing the breadth of creativity that this man has. And he definitely hasn't been given enough opportunity to write and do some fun creative stuff, which we're definitely doing at this point now that he and I have gotten together. But I myself come from the world of Hollywood television and film. I have notably, my one claim to fame, my badge of honor, and anyone who follows my channel has heard me say this, I had a spec script on the desk of the president at Warner Brothers at one point, and it got all the way through the chain. And the last result was, the final end result was, they said they thought it was brilliant, but couldn't take a risk on an unknown property, unknown IP. Right. But at the end of the day, I'm very familiar with what it takes to make a thing happen. I think between the two of us, sir, we can write a movie for these people.
Yes, I agree.
And I want to take the opportunity for us to really kind of sit here and think through this. Stanley says, "Great, by the way, opportunity." He says, "Ali's a great actor, but I don't think he made much bank from Green Book." Very
Well,
true.
and what I wanted to say before you so rudely cut me off, being the jerk that you are, is that what I told the wife was, as much as I understand why a lot of people are really looking forward to this movie, better for them to postpone, cancel, delay whatever they're doing than to release a crappy Blade movie.
I agree.
And
Absolutely
so
agree.
if it was looking like if Feige was looking at the project going, oh no, we got another Marvels on our hand, or we got another God forbid Eternals on our hand, right?
Sure.
Then they would be like, yeah, we need to pump the brakes on right now, and then either retool or whatever they can do.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
do agree, by the way, Dinner Bells was pointing out that they should keep it R rated. Yeah, Blade is an
Absolutely.
R rated character. He absolutely
Hands
is.
down.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Wesley Snipes, I think, was a really awesome Blade back in the day. And honestly, as we start kind of thinking about story ideas, I have no problem bringing Snipes into the mix. If
Really?
Yeah, I would actually uh, not be completely opposed to simply having Blade in the MCU be a continuation of the Blade saga that we got back in the day. And so he was introduced in Deadpool,
Hmm.
and he can, obviously we have lots of stuff that's going to be going on in the next few movies with crossovers from other universes.
Right.
So
Right.
there's no reason that Wesley Snipes' Blade can't cross over into the 616. Absolutely no reason that can't happen.
Well, you
And
kind of. I get you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
yeah, and because I would see that as even though I really like Ali, you could have Ali play a variant of Blade that's like native to the 616. And so, which could actually be kind of interesting to have the two of them together, but have a passing of the torch, if you will, with Snipes and Ali together. And in fact, so we've had Blade 1, Blade 2, Blade Trinity, so you could call this one Blades.
No, you're fired. Stop it. This is not why I came here tonight. So listen. Okay. So listen. I do. I actually have a pitch.
All right.
And the thing is, I think flat out, you could. Good. I absolutely love my kid. Sorry, she's not feeling good right now, and so she's texting very sadly because she's miserable and doesn't realize I'm on a live stream. Anyways, I love my daughter to death, and I feel so bad for her. College kid, pushing herself too far. You know what I mean? The pitch I have is very simple. Bring it back to its roots. By that I mean, Blade has been known in the comics to be a direct adversary with the likes of Dracula. So what you do is you finally
Bring in
unfold
Dracula.
you unfold the MCU's Dracula, and who do you cast in that role? In my opinion, you cast the one and only Javier Bardem. I feel like Javier Bardem would be an unbelievable Dracula. He would bring a gravitas, but he would also fit that mold of a comic book villain in the style that Marvel has done, which is very grandiose, very big. I don't necessarily know you have to kill him, which has always been Marvel's MO, but I feel like you establish who he is very quickly, and then you do what they have done across the MCU. You don't give Blade's origin story. We know it. You
Right.
just have Blade. You Blade show up being Blade. The one thing that the Wesley Snipes, well, there's many things Wesley Snipes movies had going for them, but the big thing that they had going for them is that they were a perfect one for one iteration, well, more or less, from the comics. I say more or less because the later on the comics borrowed a lot from the Wesley Snipes movies, but initially the idea was old war veteran with a bad leg, Whistler, is the mentor who's helped raise Blade from a child. That whole origin is almost shot for shot from the comics in terms of him being born in a hospital after his mother was bitten and the whole 9 yards. So this is a really good, and in fact, only difference is in the comic books, Whistler's the one who was chasing the vampire that got him, and coming back thinking that they might come back, he comes right there as his mom dies. And then he takes Blade as a young age and raises him. And so versus, and I think in the movie, Blade like attacked him or was all feral in an alley or something like that.
Yeah, and he talks about how Blade was just basically, he thought Blade was just a feral vampire.
Yep. So so they did a great job. Just do that. So the one thing I did say when I put this together was what are the top things Marvel has to do immediately to fix this problem. So I've got 4 big things. I want to talk about each of them with you. The very first thing that absolutely Marvel has to do to fix this problem right now is, number 1, prioritize script quality. One of the main issues has been dissatisfaction with the script. That's happened. That's a recurring theme throughout this entire development phase. Marvel needs to focus on ensuring the story is compelling, especially since Blade needs to live up to high expectations, given its horror focus and Mahershala Ali's talent. A strong, well-written script could help resolve many concerns. I actually don't think that what you described is impossible in the realm of what that first thing is talking about. I think what you said makes a lot of sense. You potentially either, I don't think it's a direct. I do not.
I was kidding about calling it Blades, by the way.
No, but I don't think you do a direct thing. But I do think you can bring in either that character. You can change the lore a little bit. Have it be that Whistler has died and the first Blade, and so now he teaches this other kid who he finds whatever else somehow, and just have to pass the torch. It's all you have to do. Pass the torch.
Well, and that's here's what I'm kind of thinking, and then you say it like that, is what if...
Oldman. I love you, Stan.
What if, okay, so we have an issue, and I do like the idea of bringing Dracula into it.
Yep.
But what if the reason that the 616 universe's Blade is, let's just say, not as kick-ass as we remember Blade being, is because Whistler in the 616 is dead. And so Wesley Snipes' Blade becomes Whistler to this Blade. You muted yourself, I think.
Sorry, that would be amazing. I could totally see that.
Yeah. So that way you can keep Wesley Snipes in the films, but you don't have to have him be super action heavy, because I know, Wesley's not getting any younger. And
I don't know, man. He looked pretty amazing in Deadpool.
Yeah, he looked kind of skinny to me, but
he definitely lost some weight for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, that flat top starting to look a little bit like a.
And he actually said, I saw him in one thing where he was talking about he was wearing a muscle suit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's even skinnier than that.
That's awesome. That's why he had the long sleeve black shirt.
Yeah.
It's because it was actually a long sleeve. You could literally buy it at Spirit Store right now.
Yeah.
No, Thomas Potts says Blade sounds like a skating movie.
Yeah, exactly. You're skating uphill.
I love that so much. But that's the first big thing.
That could be the second movie. Blades skating uphill.
So what is what does the script have to have in order to be successful when it comes to this thing?
Okay, so
I feel like you do it in a way that Blade is definitely got. Okay, so let's step out of that for a second and what we talked about, and let's come back to the idea of a new iteration.
Okay,
that's what they're looking to do clearly.
Right. So if we're going to do Dracula, one thing that I think, and this is Marvel's other Achilles heel, and this goes all the way back through Marvel, is weak writing for the villains. If you're going to do Dracula, you cannot afford to do that.
No, you got it. Absolutely. I'm with you.
This has to be a Dracula film with Blade in it, not a Blade film with Dracula in it.
Oh, that sounds fun, actually. When you think about that?
So you go balls to the wall horror with this film.
I agree.
And in fact,
I think you do.
Now, Marvel's big on, doing lots of cinematic crossover, world building stuff, and I'm fine with that. Let's have Dracula, Dracula shows up in New York because, of course, it's New York.
Absolutely.
And,
Where else would he want to go?
right. So, imagine what happens if Dracula bites, say, Thor.
Ooh. You could do.
You could make like a Dark Avengers type of. I mean, I know it's not Dark Avengers like in the comics, but you could make
No, but they never do anything that's exactly
Dracula basically purposely going after superhumans.
because now that they're alive, now that they're a thing, you could even. Okay.
Because their blood is even awesome.
Here's how the process works. Ready?
Okay.
I love this. You're doing great. Thank you. Okay. I'm excited. I'm sorry. What you got to do is, someone else, Blade has been around doing what Blade does.
Mm-hmm.
They have awakened Vlad Tepes, Dracula.
Right.
Wakened him up. And he's really not happy about why they woke him up.
And now they call him Drake.
And I hate you so much. And so what happened is that they inevitably are like they're like what's going on? What's the problem? Why am I here? What is happening? Why have you woken me up? Like you said, this is a Dracula movie. Mm-hmm. And they're like, we have a problem. We have the Daywalker, the Hunter, the whatever. And he's like, what are you talking about? Because Dracula's been out since the 1800s. So now he's introduced him for the first time. Dracula can go out during the day. By lore, he can. He's not a daywalker full blown. It costs him something.
He's weaker during the day, but he can go out.
His skin being tan is a result of it is burning. He's just keeping himself under control. So you can have them have an encounter similar to the one that Blade had with Chris. Wesley Snipes had with Chris Christopherson, or not Chris Christopherson. Yeah, I think where he when he's out and he goes, "Your mascara."
You mean Brad Dourif?
Yeah, Brad Dourif. Thank you, Brad Dourif. When he says your mascara's running.
Yeah.
And I love that moment. And I figured you can have something similar where they're like, where they have a confrontation. And he's like, you don't know. And of course, Dracula's trying to be intimidating because he's Dracula, and Blade ain't having it because he's Blade. Yeah. And so I think it would be wonderful. And you could even have Dracula be like, what is this? Why are you like this? What's going on? Whatever. You could even cameo Werewolf by Night if you wanted to.
Right, and that's something that Stan Lee mentioned. You could link it to Werewolf by Night. See, and Man-Thing, the interesting thing about Man-Thing is that Man-Thing would be useless against Dracula because,
absolutely.
Because Man-Thing's touch only works on anything that knows fear. And Dracula doesn't know fear.
Doesn't know?
But here's where I go with it. So then you go through this whole thing with Blade and Dracula realizes there's a vampire who doesn't get weak during the day, and so now Man-Thing's powers can work on Dracula.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm following.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's an interesting take.
Right.
I think it starts to get complicated, but I think that there's a world in which you can make that come together a little well. That's a Man thing, baby. That's hilarious. ABJ asks, how can Blade continue without Snipes? That's a great question. I think there is a world in which it does. I think Snipes was so definitive. People don't realize that, and it's funny, Ryan Reynolds has said it in several interviews, Wesley Snipes and his iteration of Blade, you can follow that through line directly to the current MCU in terms of decisions that were made as a result of what that movie did.
Well, didn't Feige work on one or two of the Blade films? I'm trying to remember.
I thought it was the third one. I thought he worked on the third one.
Yeah.
And
which I know a lot of people weren't big fans of the third one. I think the third one did suffer from trying to go for the PG-13. That is definitely a mistake. But if we go with a full-on creepy Dracula horror film,
sure,
where Dracula is turning MCU characters we know, and what, I'm just trying to think.
So cool.
And yeah, what if is there a way to introduce? Because here's the interesting thing is that if there are vampires all over the place in the 616, why have we not heard anything about them up to this point? And the problem we run into is how many secret cabals are running the world in the MCU. If we now have like the vampires are also out there as an entire nation, I like the idea that Dracula is a new origin to the vampire species,
Okay.
and
Which is kind of what they tried to do a little bit of in, I think it was Blade. I think it was not Blade 3. It was Blade 3. Wasn't
well,
it when
Blade.
They woke up.
Well, Blade 3, they also had a viral weapon that killed all the vampires except Blade. Even though at the end of Blade 3, he's like, okay, I'm going to go kill vampires now. It's like, but they're all dead.
Right.
Anyway, but
Vampire God.
so this could be where the origin of Blade is the solution to Dracula.
Ooh, right. Yes.
So
yes.
what I'm thinking is, so if Dracula is turning various MCU characters, New York is starting to become a vampire-infested city.
Agreed.
And could a character like, say, Doctor Strange or Wong or someone like that, a magic user basically, do something to create a human vampire hybrid to try to combat Dracula? Since nothing else seems to work on Dracula because his powers are purely magical, so using
I mean, they're not so much magical as supernatural, which I guess borders on magical. And
Yeah.
and actually, there'd be a great opportunity to get that. To get
yeah,
that
you could create a new distinction there if
Right.
Marvel has the balls to go there, because I know Marvel gets very nervous about, like, because even with magic they tried to science-y up magic.
Sure. I remember that.
But yeah, if I think this would be an opportunity to introduce a third prong here in the supernatural, and so the idea becomes that you have to fight fire with fire here, and so the only way.
Warren says, I don't know that you can save the Blade franchise since it died a long time ago. I would say, what must Marvel do to resurrect the Blade franchise? I think you reboot it. I absolutely, Darren. I think you reboot it. I think you have to rethink it, and that's sort of what Salty and I are talking through right now.
Yeah.
Is what does that look like? When
All right, and that's why I say, like, Marvel, the MCU has not been afraid to touch origin stories, right? As far as change them around a little bit, do their own thing on them, and even classic Marvel stories, like we've talked about the fact that they changed Civil War, they changed Age of Ultron, they changed Infinity War, and so they're not afraid to change the stories for the sake of the MCU.
Agreed.
So, given
and
that,
for the most part, the audience gives them the benefit of the doubt to do it. I'm not talking about the current phase where where Marvel just went off the rails in terms of a lot of their experimentation and a lot of different things.
Right.
But like at its core, I think most of us go, okay, they don't do an overall bad job. We've just had a bad season. I think got haters who are going to hate no matter what, but I feel like there's a world in which we look at it that way. And if that's the case, you trust them to pull some stuff like this off.
yeah. And I think that if we let them tinker with the Blade origin enough to where so we have instead of trying to say, yeah, there have been vampires around all along, there's been a vampire, but he's been dormant for a long time.
Darren, welcome. You must have just arrived, and that's totally cool.
Yeah.
That's exactly the premise we've sort of set up, which is
Yeah.
you start with Dracula. And by the way, that he's absolutely right. He says if they really want to go big with Blade, bring him back in a big way, they need to use material from the old Tomb of Dracula comic and bring it in Dracula as his villain. Bam!
Yeah.
It's exactly what
I actually have that comic, The Tomb of Dracula, where Blade first appears.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing. But great pull, Darren. Absolutely. Yeah, man, I agree. I think.
But yeah, and Darren, what I don't know, you didn't hear me say it, but early on, what I said is this should be a Dracula movie with Blade in it, not a Blade movie with Dracula in it. And so I think that given the right people behind it, you make a serious, horrific Dracula film where the only solution is to create a new kind of vampire to fight him. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I think just to sort of touch on the second point, because again, we're talking about what are the
that's
things that
actually
Marvel
not
can do.
bad. Darren just came up with our title,
What?
Tomb of Dracula.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's super smart. Super smart, sir. Absolutely.
And,
Call
and
it.
in fact, you could not even don't even put in the marketing that it's a Blade film.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, with people like all
Everybody
this.
who's a comic fan would know. They
Well,
would
because
all
if they
know.
do, Marvel was doing a Dracula film, right? I think that the initial buzz would probably be, well, at least it's not going to suck like Morbius did, and and
Sure.
then and then you'll probably get some people saying, hey, maybe in the future we'll get a Dracula versus Blade movie,
Yep. Exactly.
without realizing that the whole
If
point of
this
Tomb
is
of
that movie.
Dracula is the origin of Blade.
Yeah, you pull a what do you call it, a not Mr. Glass. You pull a what was that movie that ended up being a sequel to
Oh,
Blade Runner?
Split.
Split. Yeah,
Yeah.
Split, where he's the bad, he's also the whatever. Anyways, that guy. You pull that. We didn't know that all of a sudden it was going to be tangentially connected to that other universe or that
Right.
whole set of stories. And then I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
That'd be so great. God, that'd be great. See, but that smells of the kind of creativity Marvel used to have. And I'm not saying they don't anymore, but I'm like, guys,
I'll say it.
dig
They
deep.
don't anymore. I mean,
I'm like, dig deep.
yeah.
Remember the MCU where that all of a sudden it gave us a post-credit scene before we even knew what the heck that was, and it's Robert Downey Jr. walking out and to talk to Thunderbolt Ross about the Avengers program, and it's like, come on,
You mean Nick Fury?
no.
No, the Thunderbolt Ross.
At the end of Incredible Hulk,
No, that was not a post-credit scene. Check your history, pal. That was in the film proper. They were going to do that as a post-credit scene, but then they didn't.
then it's the end of the movie. The very
Yes,
end
it
of
is
the
at the
movie.
very end of the movie, but
Probably at
it's
the end, and if anything, it's probably it's what they consider a mid-credit scene. It came after the title sequence.
no, it is not after the title.
I'd have to take a look.
I will
Anyways,
bet you money right now.
that's cool. That's not the show we're doing right this second. We can have
No,
that
but I
conversation
need the
later.
money. So
That's hilarious. But no, hold on. What's it? Oh yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm still waiting for Marvel to do a follow-up to Werewolf by Night. Maybe incorporate that as a lead into into the Dracula Blade film. Yeah. So the word on the Werewolf by Night sequel from Michael Giacchino, who was the director, is that there's been talks, but nothing solid's happening. It is not in development beyond the fact that it's on a pin and a board somewhere. So
Right.
we're not. There's nothing. There's no movement in that direction. However, today a rumor dropped from Daniel RPK. Those of you who follow the leakers out in the world, stating that Marvel has suddenly scrambled in order to find a director for a. They are fast tracking a Midnight Suns movie. Now, why do you suppose that is, boys and girls? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because their Blade movie just flopped, and they were
Right.
like, maybe we can bring Blade, the character of Blade, in and introduce him in a Midnight Suns movie or something. I don't know. But I'm interested to see how they're going to pull off the Midnight Suns or what they're looking to do, because we have not gotten a formal Ghost Rider yet. And Ghost Rider is normally part of the Midnight Suns, or has historically been, is what I
Right.
mean. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But
See,
Marvel
Midnight Suns is not one that I've read, so I don't know a lot about it. But my concern there is that and you know how Hollywood tends to overcompensate. We'll just say
Yep.
something is successful, and so they push in that direction because they think that, oh, all we got to do is that, and then everything will be a hit.
Right.
And I'm worried that because Deadpool and Wolverine was so successful this year, that they're going to start pushing, oh, we need more R-rated content.
Well, I mean,
And
there's nothing wrong with that, but I think you're right. I think if they learn the wrong lessons,
right, and don't get me wrong, there are some characters, Deadpool being one of them, Blade being one of them, that deserve the R-rated treatment.
agreed.
Now, and by the way, I would also include Punisher in that, and maybe
Sure.
even Daredevil, but they, I think, belong on the small screen. I
Well,
think
and
they,
not to mention that has less restrictions. That
yeah,
doesn't. That's supposed to be TVMA, and you're good to go.
yeah. I like having Daredevil, Punisher, the street level
Yeah.
guys. I
Yes.
like the idea of keeping them on Disney Plus.
Absolutely.
And I am really looking forward to Daredevil Born Again.
I am too, actually. It's gonna be great.
So, but
Yeah.
so I like but I do think that there's definitely a place for the R-rated content in the MCU, but I don't want it to dominate the MCU, because as soon as it does, then the MCU is no longer a family-friendly endeavor, and I think that they'll go further and further into darkness, so to speak, and I don't want them to get that wrapped up in it. Having a couple of characters that are there, fine, not the whole thing.
So I'm gonna say something that I feel like people are gonna backhand me for, or want to backhand me for. Kevin Feige needs to take a note out of James Gunn's current playbook. James Gunn has stated factually and with no falsehoods, whatever. No, he's not lying whatsoever. He said flat out, we are not putting anything into production unless the script is solid and done.
Yeah.
Now, Marvel had historically been real loose with their scripts in terms of, we want to get the thing in production, we want to get it moving, we can finish and tighten it up as we go, because that's how we're going to, and that's always been sort of that's always been how the sausage is made over there. That's one of the reasons why the Russos have come in to make Doomsday, even though we haven't gotten anything remotely close to telling us why Doomsday is happening yet, in terms of Doctor Doom. But because they know how to interweave filming, and they're like, hey, here's pieces, film this, we'll get you back, and we'll do the other part, and then eventually it'll come together and be the beauty that is something like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War, whatever. And so I feel like that's what they're doing, or they want to do there. They need to stop doing that.
Right.
Because the time that you think you're wasting in getting your story solid is what matters. Stan, I think that's an ignorant statement. And by that, I mean, Stan just said he's stuffing it like a dozen characters in a Superman movie. He's absolutely not. The DC Universe exists like that. The DC Universe exists with things like the Justice League and corporate heroes, and it's a very different lived-in world.
And by the way, my only concern with James Gunn's Superman movie, honestly, is I hope that Superman feels like Superman. And when I say
so, that's all we're getting is Superman feeling like Superman right now.
Well, no, I mean, like, for example, I don't want dark, I don't want Superman to go the route that he did in a lot of the comics, where Superman is a dark, moody, brooding character kind of thing. And no, I don't think he was that in Man of Steel, despite what some people say. I think he was in a dark.
I don't know if I've ever seen him dark and brooding. When was that?
I'm not saying he was in the films. I'm saying, even though I know a lot of people thought Man of Steel was too dark, I think Man of Steel, Superman was in a dark world, but I don't think Superman himself was a dark character.
Agreed.
But Superman needs to be truth, justice, and the American way. Agreed. Batman can be dark and brooding and moody and all that. I'm totally down with that. I want I thought the Batman, while Bruce Wayne sucked, as Batman, it was awesome. And so, Batman should be dark, should be gritty, should be violent. But Superman, I mean, come on, bullets bounce off the guy.
Sure. Again, but we're not taking us too far, of course.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. Darren
Back to Blade. By the way, what happens if a vampire bites Superman since Superman's vulnerable to magic?
He's not vulnerable to magic. Magic is like a phobia. Team with
it depends on which iteration you're reading.
I'm going the current one. I can only go by what DC says currently, and that actually I read in an article with Tom King the other day, like 2 weeks ago.
I would make it so that he could be turned into a super vampire.
They talked. When did they do something? No, they did. No, that wasn't that. That was Zombie. He was Superman Zombie, which was great. Team with Werewolf by Night. And, Darren says Man Thing, Blade, Hannibal King, and Lilith could be good. Yeah, that's true. That'd be good. I can totally see that. Very dark group and whatnot. That makes sense. Could a bite even penetrate his skin? Sure, if a Kryptonian bit him.
Well, no. The thing about it is that in classic versions of Superman, magical-based attacks would affect him normally, so he didn't have any special resistance to anything magic, and. So based on that, a bite from a vampire could, in fact, infect him. However, I don't know that I know that I actually have a comic book where Superman and Batman went up against a vampire, and Batman was really concerned about if Superman got bitten. So, yeah, but that was a
hilarious. It's too funny. So what the next thing, the thing that, because we were talking about what Marvel has to do, and it's not more than just stories, it's more than just coming up with characters and actors and everything else. They need to secure a stable creative team. This entire era of them going up and down has been fraught with directors leaving, and they weren't, who's doing what, and it's just been a very, you don't know what role Mahershala Ali's playing as an executive producer, what's going on, and at the end of the day, it's like, give us who's working on this,
right.
and let that team lead it and go. Like, figure it out, and not to mention the fact that, and everyone's making jokes online, Blade's literally a guy who fights vampires. Start
Yeah.
there. I do think you dip into, like we talked about, the Dracula stuff, but at the end of the day, like, don't overcomplicate this. This isn't Shakespeare. It's not that they have layers. It's just what it is, man. From that opening moment in Wesley Snipes' first movie, where they took the opportunity to show us, oh, no, the vampire, Blade, we should not be afraid of the vampires in this world. The vampires are terrified of him. That's what they established in that first scene. And from that moment forward, we knew the tone. And it's one of the reasons what made the sequel movie when they had that group, remember that group of anti-Blade, whatever? That's
the
what made
Night
it so
Stalkers.
unique. Oh, I love the Night Stalkers. They were great. So, anyway. But yeah, what else? Let me see. I think
I'm trying to think. Like, I would try to find someone who was... I honestly look for someone who is good at doing serious horror movies.
Yes,
to
I actually have
direct.
that on my list. You're right. Leverage horror elements. I agree
Yeah.
with you 100%. Absolutely.
And so I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but I'm trying to think of some of the great horror movies.
I loved Werewolf by Night. Now, I'm not saying Michael Giacchino needs to do it, but I loved it because it leaned into the elements that were classically horror elements.
Right.
And it even though sometimes on some level somebody might look and go, well, that's corny. No, but it worked. The thing sold you on the premise pretty quickly.
And Stan, I'm not talking about Sam Raimi. Don't get me wrong. I like Sam Raimi. I really like Sam Raimi directing. I want to see him direct more Doctor Strange, to be honest.
Agreed.
But Sam Raimi has a very particular style, and that style
He
happens.
has a very particular set of skills.
And his style fits very well with the MCU flavor of humor and kind of tongue in cheek. Nothing is taken too seriously. We want this to be a serious film. And so if you're going to do this right, like I said, you want an absolutely serious, like if you haven't seen the trailers for Nosferatu, that's what we want,
Bro,
right?
that looks so intense.
Right,
I love it.
but with Blade in it. So
Sure.
that
That makes sense. I could totally see that. Thomas has an idea. Here for
Ryan
you.
Johnson.
I knew you'd love his idea.
And I'm with you, Darren. I really like Doctor Strange too. I know a lot of people like to hate on it, but I think
there's
that
rumors
it's
right now that Doctor Strange 3 is not happening anytime soon. Most likely, anything they're going to probably your next appearance probably. So again, I need to lay out some math for everybody. With this statement about Blade being off this calendar, we know based on rumors, Midnight Suns is being kicked into high gear and to immediately get into production, and they have technically, rumors are, Daniel RPK again, they've canceled the Doctor Strange 3 movie. The only reason I think you do either of those moves is because of the Blade movie. It all fits, because now the next time we see Doctor Strange most likely will be in the Midnight Suns movie, because he's also a character in that.
Okay.
So you sit here and you're creating your Dark Avengers without Dark Avengers. You're making your supernatural team that faces evil stuff, and then from that you spin it off into its own thing. You build the premise there and go from there. So it's the fastest way to recover and pivot from the failure that is this Blade debacle. That's my thought.
So it looks like I was just looking at the guy that's directing Nosferatu, directed The Northman.
Northman, really?
Yeah, and The Witch.
Like the Vivitch?
Yeah, The Vivitch. Both of which, I mean, say what you want. Those
are solid. That's a solid pedigree.
Yeah, so if you get someone like Robert Edgers, that's who's directing Nosferatu, get him to direct the Tomb of Dracula film we're talking about here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now the only problem is we have Nosferatu coming out this year. And I'm wondering if the Nosferatu movie might be part of the reason that they're putting off Blade.
Well, the other thing is this: you had friggin' what's his face, Michael B. Jordan, and the guy who directed Black Panther. You had them both sitting there coming to Marvel with a pitch for Blade, and then when Marvel rejected them, they were like, "Well, we're just going to change."
And
the
that's
time
actually
frame."
Michael B. Jordan would be in, or not Michael B. Jordan. Uh,
The director?
Jordan Peele. There's a director for you.
He met with them last year. Jordan Peele met with Marvel last year to discuss. He declined the offer, but he met with them to discuss something, and nobody knows what it was. I can totally see that they were trying.
He'd be a natural pick to do Blade.
I agree. Thank you, Stan.
Because he likes doing horror, and he likes working with black actors, and Blade.
Darren points out a great point too. They're also coming out with a sequel to Last Voyage of the Demeter, which features a black hero versus Dracula. With all of this confluence of events, which, by the way, if anyone were to complain about, I would look Kevin Feige in his eye and say, "Bro, why did you drag your junk up so long?"
Right. Blade should have come out 2 years ago.
100%. And then you would have been well ahead of the curve with all these bozos. You know why all these Black Guys versus Dracula or versus vampire movies are coming out now? Because you took so long.
Yeah.
And
these are response movies to Blade.
Smarter producers all said, well, screw it. If there's clearly a hungry audience, and if you're going to screw the pooch on it, we're going to put something into production quick and get it done. Here's the thing. From Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's pitch to the debut of their vampire movie was less than 2 years. They hot-footed it, bro. And that movie looks like it's going to be amazing.
I haven't seen anything on it. What's it called?
It's literally, hold on a second. I'll bring it up right now. I'll see if I can, I don't know if I can do that. All right, whatever. Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan. I just saw a trailer for it the other day, vampire movie. Sinners. The movie's called Sinners.
Okay. When's it coming? Next year?
Huh?
Next year?
Yes, it's supposed to be out next year. It looks amazing. They've already got trailers going and everything. So that movie's coming. And the one that Darren was just talking about is coming. And Jordan Peele's highly overrated, in my opinion. Okay, well, unfortunately, his highly overrated butt keeps making money, hand over fist, on inexpensive films. That doesn't count for overrated. That counts for rated probably just about right.
And you know what? I have to say, I think that...
Real quick. You can say you're tired of hearing his name. That's fair and valid. Okay, there was a time that Spielberg was the name that everybody said again and again and again. So I totally respect that. But he's not overrated. The guy's producing. That's like when Salty over here on the other show we do says stuff like, this is not as overrated. I'm like, how is it overrated when that director's making money and changing the face of the industry? That's not overrated. That's doing the thing that people are saying you're doing. So it's the same thing with this. I agree with you. Jordan's in a lot. Jordan Peele's been talked about a lot. He's doing stuff. And I mean,
whatever you say, Black Falcon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, what I got be Black Falcon.
That's awesome.
That was one of my favorite sketches of theirs.
No, I hear you.
But anyway.
But anyway, so yeah, those are the things you got to. That's what Marvel has to do. Marvel's got to do them. He's got to do them quick. Got to do them right quick and in a hurry. What do you guys? The Twilight Zone just sucked. Stanley, it absolutely did. I was very disappointed. I expected better things.
Look, I'm not saying that Jordan Peele is, the second coming of Christ. I'm just saying that he's a good director.
No, legit. No, Darren. Hey, Darren, I love that, brother. You're entitled to your opinion just as much as I am. I want you to know that. I may not think he's overrated. You're totally valid in thinking he's overrated. So never ever take anything I say as being like, screw you, man. The point of this, remember, you're talking to the base of NerdFights. So he and I both, our jobs are to constantly be at odds and wanting to can make like my opinion, your opinion. This is an open dialogue forum, brother. I appreciate you and your thought process. So don't
And
you
honestly, look,
for
M.
like
Night is, he's one of those directors that's very hit and miss.
he really is.
I mean, because, and M. Night movies either going to be really good or really bad.
Yeah.
It's rarely boring. It's just, I mean, come on. The Happening is one of my favorite bad movies of recent years because it's so bad. What? No.
Aaron, I
But
love you.
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And Star Trek Academy has been renewed for season 2. Thanks, Thomas. That's just what I
I
want.
know because it's so good. Wait. Oh wait, we haven't seen it yet. My bad.
Yeah, it hasn't even been
I
produced
love when
yet.
they do that. By the way.
Yeah. It's so
Oh
good that we've
man.
already renewed it for 8 seasons, even though not one episode has
You
actually
want to
been
sit here and
produced.
go? Why don't you guys just be honest?
Yeah.
Everyone's getting 5 seasons now, and that's all you're getting. That's fine. I'm okay with knowing that. As long as I know ahead, I can set my expectations.
Yeah, just like we knew the plan was 7 seasons for, Generation 2 of Trek.
or mildly to keep us on track, or just like we knew, I don't know, 7 years ago they were going to make a Blade movie. Whatever. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
things happen. But no, I'm with you guys. I think
And yes, Stan, that's the one with the wind. The Happening is the one where the bad guy is literally the wind.
Oh my god, I want that so much. Comment below. Let us know, please. We'd love to know more about your
Yeah.
thoughts on what you think about the upcoming potential for fixing a Blade movie, or the fact they canceled it and took it off the list. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean it's canceled or forever and ever.
It just means it's not coming out next year.
Correct.
That's all we
may
really
pivot.
know.
They may pivot. They may watch this show because Kevin Feige, friend of the show, and decide that you know what, this is the right outlook and the right mentality to
Well,
have.
what a lot of people don't realize is that Kevin Feige is actually Mr. Know-It-All's father-in-law and lives in the house with him.
Why do you think I wear baseball caps all the time?
And so that's why he.
He's Grandpa Know-It-All. Y'all just didn't know this.
Yeah. So
No, hey man, oh god, here we go. Darren says M. Night Shyamalan they had the unenviable situation of having a dynamite debut. God love you, he's right.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? Literally, there was a TV show called Studio 60, and after the third episode where they had huge success, they look at each other and go, this story can only go one way. And
Yeah.
you're 1,000% right. What did they expect him to do? When you do this amazing thing, you should just walk off the field and be like, I'm out.
yeah, he should have retired after Sixth Sense.
I'm not gonna. There's no way I'll remake anything better than this. Let's go. But yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, man, I know we can write a good movie. I know there's a good movie in here somewhere. I think that going the Dracula route is definitely the good route. I think you solidify your whole creative team and then just get your story right and get just. It sounds like where they're not right now, and I'm like, why can't you crack this? What is so difficult about black man, leather armor, swords, killing vampires? Done.
Well, what's difficult now is that no matter what they do, it's to the modern audience, except for those that are already fans of Blade, they're going to think it's they're just ripping off all the vampire movies from last year, so
It's true. Right on.
because people are very stupid when it comes to that and have short memory.
We may revisit this on Saturday, depending on any more developments in this story.
Yeah.
So do expect to see this on the open mic side of things. But there you go. Now you know. And if now you have to battle, you're halfway to being know-it-all yourself. So we are hopefully looking forward to some news about either Midnight Suns or potentially seeing the announcement of the cancellation of Doctor Strange, all in the hopes of seeing some new stuff come out very soon. Would love to hear your take on the whole thing. But you got anything else you want to talk about regarding this?
No, because you're going to cut me off.
No, I'm not.
You absolutely are.
I am not, I promise. Come on.